Recently we've been showing you what it took to turn Gary's £450 shitbox Swift into a Formula 1 circuit track car. There's never a dull moment when Gary brings you a car that he says is actually not that bad.
I've had a look round it, but since then Paul's checked it and there's quite a few things that I missed, as usual.
Top link is completely the opposite of this side. I've yet to witness Gary buying a car, but I imagine he views most of them with his eyes closed. We have some fluid leaking down here, so that is a burst brake line there. But as you will have seen on the channel, it's nothing we can't fix. And keeping in theme with the channel, there's always space for another shitbox Japanese nugget. In episode 1 we removed all the faulty or worn parts on the car which needed replaced, and you join us now on day 2 when it's time to start the rebuild. Right, it's day 2 on the Swift. Again, we're just going to stick back to the time lapse. We've got a shitload of parts here for it. It's time to do the rebuild. Everything's stripped off, from the manifold to the fuel tank to allow the brake pipe repair. So it's just rebuild mode now. Hopefully we don't come across too much.
If you do, just wipe it off. Hopefully we don't come across any more issues with the car, because that's obviously going to set us back, 1 for time and 2 for cost. We want this to be a quick one for Mark to use for Knockhill in the upcoming season, but also for you guys, so it's not dragging on like a whole series. It's a quick hit. After spending a full day stripping the car down, it's now nice to get some new parts on it. We're pretty much replacing everything on the front in pairs, which is also ideal to do at the time. Because they gave us the passenger side lower arm and we had to change the driver side lower arm, again we're getting to change it in pairs, along with the drop links, the disc, the pads and the calipers. Once the lower arm has been fitted, it's pretty straightforward to fit the disc and the pad. Next I can tackle the caliper. The banjo bolt is a little bit poor condition, so I'm cleaning it up with a wire wheel first, and then we can remove it and refit the new one. We're not fitting performance brakes to the front of the car, it's just standard discs and pads, but we are upgrading the fluid, which should give us a little bit longer on the track. With the brakes out the way, it's now time to tackle that drop link. You noticed in the last video that the passenger side was loose and the driver's side was completely fitted wrong. Instead of just tightening up the loose side, we're actually just going to replace it to keep everything in pairs. Next job on the list was to fit an exhaust manifold with a built-in catalytic converter. This is what it should be like from the factory, and we need the catalytic converter built in for MOT regulations here. We also need the car to pass an emissions test, so it's just best to fit the right one to the car. We found this one second hand on eBay as soon as we bought the car, because we did know at the time that this was coming without a catalytic converter, and Gary's ordered the proper fitting kit for the manifold as well, which will remove all the spacers and all the crap which was previously fitted to it. We're making our way through the list, and now it's time to tackle the back brake pipe. The flared end of the brake pipe was stuck in the flexi pipe, so I've had to work this off. Then I'm using heat just to try and help me free it off, and I can spin it off, which saves us replacing the flexi pipe because I don't actually have one of these at the moment. In order to run the new brake pipe from the front to the back, I've flared one end and fitted it into the ABS module, and then fed it all the way through. Because of the awkward shape of the brake pipe and the condition, it was just easier to feed a whole roll of copper pipe through, and it allowed me to trace the shape a lot better because of the way it runs across the fuel tank. Because I've done it this way, it means I have to flare the opposite end on the car, but that's fine and it gives me a good fit in the end. It's finally time for Gary to get dirty working on this project. For once he's brought me a car that doesn't actually need welding. The back end is in pretty good condition for its age, which I have noticed on any one of these little cars that I've worked on in the past. But with that being said, it's still a good time for Gary to knock off any loose stuff, give the backside a few coats of underseal, just to keep on top of the car going forward. In no logical order as always, Gary then starts to apply the coats of underseal to the car. We're just using the same stuff as the iGo, and feel free to tell Gary in the comments that he should be wearing PPE to do this. With the underseal now complete, it gives me time to fit new brakes to the back of the car while the underseal is drying. With the underseal now dry, we can then go back under and re-secure the fuel tank with the 4 bolts. Then it's time to address the rear shock absorbers. First I have to strip the rear panel in the boot area. That allows me access to the nut which is holding the top of the shock absorber, and from there it's just 1 bolt on the bottom and they're easily enough removed. With all that back end work now complete, the final piece of the puzzle was to refit the exhaust system. There was a little bit of fidgeting and adjusting needing done to get it to sit properly, but we finally got there and secured it back up. Lewis has kindly donated original Suzuki Swift sport wheels to the project, which I'm so glad because those old alloys were absolutely ridiculous. Now's a good opportunity to fit new tyres to these, so we're fitting Nankang NS20 tyres to the front, and some of the tyres on the old wheels are okay, so I think we've got 2 budgets on the back. And I think most people will agree that these original Suzuki Swift sport wheels look so much better than the shitty Wolf Race wheels that was on the car. Thankfully Darren then showed up to lend a hand with the project and the final touches, so we've got some service work to do to complete the car. So firstly we just drain all the fluids out the car, and while Darren's doing that I'm fixing the light bulb situation that we showed in the first episode. Because we removed the drive shaft on the driver's side to change the outer CV joint, it means we drained the box at that time as well, so we've got fresh gear oil to put back in as well, and this actually means we've replaced every single fluid on the car. When we thought we were almost done, a final spanner in the works when we went to replace the spark plugs. We found oil sitting down in cylinder 1 spark plug well, and then we discovered there was a lot of loose bolts around the timing casing and the rocker cover. So we've had to address the timing case cover and we've had to tighten up everything. We've actually went and replaced the rocker cover gasket and tightened everything down. In light of all the loose components on the car has adopted the name Lucy, and rightly so if you ask me. Because of the nature we're looking to use this car for, everything has to be spot on, and the car's about to face its biggest challenge ever. This is underside of the car now, so we've got different wheels, different tyres, calipers, brakes, CV joint, drop links, bottom arms. Service is done over here. We now have a catalytic converter instead of that other manifold. We've got shiny new copper brake pipe all the way up there, and so it's an extensive amount of work that's been carried out. With the car now running since the first time it came to me, there was only one thing left to do: for Gary to gate crash my Formula 1 circuit experience. And if you want to watch us race against Ferraris in these shit boxes and see Gary literally give them the fingers, then the link to the video is on your screen now.